Voice of Indonesia from Indonesia to the world. VOI listeners and viewers, on June 6, Sweden just celebrated its National Day that has been celebrated since 1916. So how's the celebration and how's the achievement of the country, particularly regarding its bilateral relations with Indonesia? Let's find out more with the Swedish ambassador to Indonesia, Timor-Leste, and ASEAN, His Excellency Mr. Daniel Blockert, who is already here in the studio of Voice of Indonesia. Hello, Mr. Ambassador.
Hello, and thank you for having me.
Thank you. Welcome to Voice of Indonesia. Thank you for coming here. And of course, first of all, I would like to congratulate for the 108th National Day of Sweden. And before talking about the achievements and our bilateral relations, we're so curious about the celebration itself in Sweden, how it is usually celebrated.
Well, I'm going to disappoint you a little bit because we don't really celebrate our National Day as much as some other countries.
Okay.
Like you said, we've celebrated the National Day. It was first the Swedish Flag Day, and then we've also added the Swedish Constitution and the coronation of the first King of Sweden, Gustav, in 1523. He was crowned the King of Sweden on the 6th of June. But I think that unlike other countries where you have a very specific day of independence, like here in Indonesia, where you have proclaimed yourself to be independent, or in countries where you have a very large and important thing that happened, like the revolution in France or unification or Germany, and then you have some countries like Japan and Thailand and UK that celebrate the birthday of the head of state. We don't really have that. Sweden has never been occupied. We have been fortunate to be an independent country for a long time. So we celebrate the National Day by parades and the Swedish flag and speeches in TV. But if you would ask a Swede important celebrations in Sweden, they would not mention the National Day. They would mention Midsummer's Eve, they would mention Lucia that we have in December as much more important days in terms of celebration and party.
Okay. And just like I've told the listeners and viewers that in 2024, the National Day reaches its 100 years, which is not a short age for a country. So how do you see Sweden's achievements as it matures this year?
Yes, I mean, the historians might disagree, but as I said, usually we talk about Sweden's birth on the 6th of June 1523, so we are quite a mature country. We've been around for some time. And I mean, we have a success story. If you go back to late 19th century, Sweden was one of the poorest countries in Europe. And we have done a journey for the last 100 of years or so that we are very proud of. And I think that we have been committed to international issues. We have been in the forefront of innovation. Many people know about Swedish innovations and Swedish brands. But I think that with maturity also comes humility, that the work is not done. We have challenges, some challenges that are new, some that we are still dealing with. And I think that's part of a maturing democracy, to realize that you are never done. It's a work that has to be continued, and that you cannot relax and say at any time that, well, we are done, we are the perfect country, so now we can just relax. It's a work in progress.
And when it comes to progress, we also would like to know the progress of Sweden and Indonesia in its bilateral relations that have been forged in 1950.
Yes, next year we celebrate 75 years of diplomatic relations that we look forward to. I was very happy when I was appointed the ambassador of Indonesia, because Indonesia is really a country that is being discussed more and more in Europe in general and in Sweden too. When I grew up, not a lot of people knew much about Indonesia. but you have managed to transfer to democracy in a very impressive way. You have economic development. It's a big economy, a large country, more and more active on the international stage. So there's an interest in Sweden about Indonesia and having a closer contacts. We see interest from Swedish companies. I see interest from the Swedish government, and also a larger number of tourists and students going in both directions. So when we talk about having closer contacts and a deeper relation, it's something that we really mean from the Swedish side, that there is an interest. We are very keen to be better engaged and more involved in Indonesian politics, and to have tighter and perhaps more deeper relations than we've had before.
Okay, and any particular sector that both countries are working on right now?
We have together with Indonesia, we have something that we call SISP, Swedish-Indonesia Sustainability Partnership. Okay. And in that partnership we had 4 priority sectors. We have transport, health, energy, and industry. And industry is mainly mining. So those are the main areas where we work closely together, and this is something that comes from both the Indonesian side and the Swedish side. I think that from the Indonesian side, they see Sweden as a country that can help with sustainability issues, because that is something that we're quite good at. So whether we talk about health or transport or energy or whatever we're talking about, they are looking for sustainable solutions that are eco-friendly, that are effective, that will be possible to implement on a large scale. And that's where I think that we can bring added value. I would say that right now we probably spend most time on the health sector, because you've done big reforms in Indonesia, and there are probably other reforms coming as well in the health sector. Trying to reach out in such a huge country where a lot of people live in remote areas and areas where access to healthcare is not easy. I think that we have a role there that we can help. And we also sponsor education here in Indonesian universities to try to improve the level of education on healthcare on all levels, but mainly on more advanced research levels. So I don't have in any way a lack of areas to work in. It's on the contrary. We have so much to do, so I have to prioritize.
Okay, and talking about health sector that you mentioned before, is it also related to sanity and also water hygiene? As we know that we just held the World Water Forum in Nusa Dua, Bali, Indonesia. Anything you want to convey about that?
Yeah, that's true. I mean, all those issues are very important, and we are certainly involved in sanitation issues as well. And general health issues. Water is one of them, but also I think that even more from the Swedish side, we are involved we have companies that are very good in sanitizing and making sure that medical equipment is clean and safe to use, that it's easy to clean. Because again, when we talked about areas of Indonesia where healthcare is perhaps not easily accessible, it's very important that you can do it in a safe way. So that is one of the priorities that we have, and I think that Swedish companies have come a very long way in research on that area that we can be helpful of. Clean water, absolutely. There are quite a lot of countries that are involved in helping out. I think that the conference in Bali was very successful. But as you know, the clean water is a huge issue, and it's not something that Indonesia can solve on its own. We have to find solutions that are possible to implement on a very large scale.
Yes, and hopefully the forum is working on it as
Yeah.
well. And as we all know that Indonesia just held the presidential elections, and we're going to have the new heads of state in the coming next October. So how's the Sweden's expectation, hopes for the new administration?
Well, first of all, I mean, congratulations to Indonesia in general, because you managed to go through with such a huge operation as an election is in this country, the biggest one-day election in the world, Really impressive. I had several of my colleagues in the embassy that was out looking at polling stations and voting booths and looking what it looked like to do something on that scale. And I think it was very successful, that it was a peaceful election without any big issues. We are looking forward to welcome the new president. I think that you have a president that will be even more active on the international stage, which we welcome. I know that he has interest and connections to Sweden, both in his previous jobs and also as a minister. So we are looking forward to have something that is someone who is engaged. I'm also hoping that Indonesia would do, just as we talked about in the first point, that democracy and development is not something that you're ever done with. So I hope that we will also see measures to safeguard the democratic process, to strengthen the institutions and make sure that this is going to last for a long time. We're all looking forward to see who's going to be in the government. It's always interesting. You have a lot of ministries here,
Yes.
more than any other country that I've seen. So we're really looking forward to that. But I think that mainly, if you talk to Swedish business and also my government back home, I don't think that we expect big changes. We expect to see more or less the same kind of policies. But I hope that we can strengthen the relationship even more, and also to see an active and constructive Indonesia on the global stage.
Okay. And enhancing bilateral relations have been done through various sectors, like we just mentioned. But don't you think one of ways to strengthen bilateral ties is through music? How do you see music as a tool of diplomacy?
Yes, I understand why I get that question. Well, if let me back it up a little bit. I think that if you're going to be a good diplomat and a good representative for your country, because I'm here to represent Sweden.
Yes.
You have to be curious. You have to be curious about the country you're in, about the culture, about the different religions and traditions that you have here. I'm trying to learn more about Indonesian, whether it's food or culture or literature or art or sports. I haven't been to football games yet, but I have the ambition to go. I just have to pick a team that I can support. And music happens to be a big interest. It's an interest for my whole family. My wife is a music journalist. My son plays a lot of instruments and make music. I started out as a student working in the music business. So for me, it's a way to connect to people. I do these playlists on the embassy Instagram account of music from different areas and cultures. I want to do more and more on Indonesian music. And I get comments about those playlists a lot, which means that when I meet people who have seen those, I already have a connection. So I've done some of the work. And that's why I use it. I think it's a fantastic way of connecting to people and understanding more about culture. It's not only music, but it's one thing that I can say with some confidence that I know a few things about. So it's a perfect way for me to interact with Indonesians and be curious about what is the music you have here, why does it sound like it does, and what is the story behind it.
All right, then. So let's make things so much more perfect by having the ambassador's playlist here in the studio of Voice of Indonesia. So Voice of Indonesia listeners and viewers, just like Mr. Ambassador Daniel Blockert said, that on the Instagram account of the Swedish Embassy in Jakarta, Indonesia, they have made very attractive content that can allow us to know more about both countries, Sweden and Indonesia. And one of the contents is Ambassador's Playlist. And now we have a special challenge to His Excellency Mr. Daniel Blockert to listen to 3 Indonesian songs from various genres, and Let's have some comments from the ambassador. Song number 1 is a viral song here in Indonesia. In 2024, we have Malik and the Essentials. Kita bikin romantis. Let's check this one out.
Kita bikin romantis, bikin paling romantis.
Sambil bermain mata, turun ke hati, hatinya jatuh.
Kita bikin romantis, yang paling romantis.
Sambil gandengan tangan, hati pelukan di angan syahdu.
Okay, so that's Malik and the Essentials entitled Kita Bikin Romantis, or We Make It Romantic. It tells a story of course, it's a romantic song just like the song title, but he wants to imply that romantic things can be done in a simple way. So not only through a candlelight dinner or something. So Mr. Ambassador, what do you think about this song?
I actually knew about Malik and the Essentials before, but I didn't know that this was a viral song. I was in Ashta a few weeks ago, and they have a music theme there, and they actually had a few of the records that they were playing. It's a very nice song. I understand why it's gone viral. A little bit sentimental, but it works. Also interesting to hear a duet in that way. It's almost a little bit old-fashioned to have love duet. It reminds me of some of the big songs of the 80s. So no, it's really nice. It's perhaps not the music that I would listen to every day, but I understand why it's become a viral hit, and it's also very, very well done and very well recorded. So it could definitely be on a playlist.
Okay, thank you. So next song on the Ambassador's playlist from the King of Dangdut, we have Rhoma Irama with Begadang. Check this one out.
Dan jangan begadang kalau tiada artinya. Begadang boleh saja kalau ada perlunya.
Okay, so what do you think about the song released in 1973?
I like this. I've tried to understand Dangdut, but I'm not really there yet, but I'm working on it. I'm studying Bahasa Indonesia as well, but I haven't come very far yet. But the thing is with this music, we have in Sweden a music genre that we call dansband, which is music that has a really simple objective, that you play it live and you want people to dance to it. That's the whole idea of it. It's not complicated music, but it's supposed to be romantic, it's supposed to be fun, and you go out and you have a night out dancing. And this is a little bit the same feel, that this is music that is supposed to be used. You're not supposed necessarily to sit with your headphones alone in the evening and listen to this. This is something that you should experience live. And I think it works very well. I love his voice, really nice voice. The instrument part is not very advanced, but it works. So I could very well imagine that people will go out dancing to this. And from what I understand, a lot of Indonesians still do. That this is still a genre that many people actually listen and enjoy.
Yes, Dangdut.
So yes, I'm just scratching the surface on the Dangdut scene, but my ambition is to learn more.
Okay, so the song title is entitled Begadang, means staying up.
Okay.
So it's he's calling on the listeners not to stay up if it is meaningless. There's no point.
Okay.
Do not begadang. Okay, last but not least, now we have the traditional song. From the capital city of Indonesia, Jakarta, is Kicir Kicir.
Kicir-kicir, ini lagunya. Lagu lama ya tuan dari Jakarta.
Okay, listeners and viewers, that's a song, Kicir Kicir, a traditional song from Jakarta that is going to have its birthday this end of June. What do you think about this traditional song?
I understand that this is an old song.
Yes.
And as you would know, one thing about Swedes, and that is that we are honest people. And I'm not going to lie. I really like the song. I like the melody. I would hope that you could hear the song with more traditional instruments, like I imagined that it was first performed, because now it sounds a little bit like a dangdut beat, but an old folk song.
Oh, okay.
And that is a little bit strange. But she has a very nice voice, and I like the melody, so I would love to hear that song in a more traditional setting with perhaps old folk instruments.
The instruments. Yeah.
Rather than this arrangement. But what was the name of the singer?
Henny Purwonegoro.
Wow. Yes, I have to
an
check
old
that.
singer. And the song itself, a song about us to be happy, stay positive, though, despite difficulties in life or in our day. Okay, Mr. Ambassador, His Excellency Daniel Blockert, thank you so much for sharing your insights about Sweden's bilateral relations with Indonesia and also the playlist. And hopefully you can bring Swedish music here one day.
I hope so. There are a lot of Swedish artists that have been here. We had recently the Java Jazz Festival, which was headlined by a Swedish artist, Snow Allegra, and before that we had Hammer Sonic, where we had Swedish hard rock and metal bands. And of course there are plenty of Swedish songwriters, but it would be great to get even more Swedish artists here, so I'm working on it.
Looking forward to it, because Voice of Indonesia has a special music show called The Session, where Swedish music can perform there.
Would be nice.
Okay, VOI listeners and viewers, that's today's special interview on the occasion of Sweden's National Day on June 6th and its bilateral relations with Indonesia. I'm Rahmawati. Stay tuned on Voice of Indonesia for more special and insightful interviews on Voice of Indonesia from Indonesia to the world.